Okay, also, I am going to go ahead and do the week 5 announcements again. I apologize, that has to be in WebEx. I'm still having some challenges with the screen capture program and getting the password updated for that through the college. So for the time being, WebEx is working again. It's just the video quality is not my favorite, but we're working with it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is get you guys through the announcements for this week. So again, we're in week 5 already. Wow. I don't know how the semester goes by so fast every year, but you guys made it through the first exam, through the first lab practical. I am still reviewing the first lab practical. I'm chunking through them as quickly as I can, and then I'm going to move into reviewing the first exam. For the most part, the first exam usually doesn't have a whole lot of changes. It's not like the lab practical, but I usually do have to go add in the extra credit. So hang in there for that. And then I do have to review all of your videos for the lab practical. I'm ready doing that. And then for the exam as well. So hang in there for that. If you have any questions, please again, email me. If you need to set up a time, this is where it's a good time for you to do this early on. If you didn't do well on the first exam and you didn't do well on the first lab practical, then please make some time to see me. We can set up a web meeting. We can do, Zoom or Google Meet or whatever works best for you. But do it early on. You don't want to wait because sometimes it's just simply changing or tweaking your study strategies. So again, I'm available. Please, please, please email me. If I haven't graded your lab practical yet, you'll see you'll see in the comments that it will not say graded. So the ones that I've graded, I will always put graded in the comments so that you know that that practical has been reviewed and that is your final grade. And you can see, for many of you that I've already graded your practicals, you can see that your lab grade changed quite a bit because I've had people that once I went through and reviewed it, upped their points by 20 points or even 30 points in some. So again, it just depends. There's all kinds of things that Canvas can't pick up, like if you put the plural lacunae instead of lacuna, or maybe you capitalized it, or maybe you put lamellar corpuscle instead of Pacinian corpuscle. All of those answers are correct, but again, we just put that one or two answers in Canvas, so that's why I hand grade them. So hang in there for that. Okay, so really quick, let's get you through what you need to do for this week. So again, I know that you just got through the first exam and you just got through the first lab practical, and it feels like you just want to kind of like mentally check out, but don't. And the reason being is that, this course moves quickly. So hang in there again. Through the end of the semester, try to, maybe take a break for a night or even 2 nights at the most if you need it, but don't take a week off because it's so easy to fall behind. And I think that many people find this second practical easier, so because it's going to be more intuitive with the skeletal system. But there is still a lot of memorization, so hang in there. Let's get through, I want to go ahead and get through the lecture first for what we're going to be doing for lecture. So you're now on exam 2. So you're going to click on exam 2 here. And we're gonna, for this week, and this is where, again, you want to follow the schedules. Remember, I have like the lab schedules and the lecture schedules. I print them out. Oops, sorry, you can't see me because I have a background, but I print them out, and you're welcome to do that as well. It's just nice to be able to keep up with where exactly we are in that schedule. So for this week, we're going to be starting the integumentary system. thankfully we've already done it in lab. So this really helps when you've kind of had a little bit of the information already in lab, and then now you're going to get it in lecture, and we'll go into kind of more detail. So you're going to see here, you've got the PowerPoint here. I went ahead and put the chapter review questions. So for each section, I think I had students last semester that requested this. So I'm sorry I haven't gone back and done it for the first exam, but they just wanted the objective questions, like for the review sheet in each section. So by chapter. So I've gone ahead and done that for this exam too. Again, at the request of some students last semester. So you'll see that. And then here's the recorded lectures here. If you haven't done this, please go ahead and do it. I honestly, I wish I had extended the date a little bit for you. So if you haven't submitted this, I know it was due this Sunday, but you're welcome to submit this anytime this week as well. Mainly because if you haven't done it, I really would like you to do this assignment. It's a great video. It's not that long. It's called The Biology of Skin Color. And it talks about kind of some of the evolutionary pressures that led to the development of all of the different range of skin colors that we have. So it's really, really an interesting video. And I feel like it's a very valuable video for the integumentary system. So what you're going to do is you're just going to watch the video and then kind of jot some notes down of some of the important facts and information that you get from the video. And then you're going to go ahead and just put that in a Word document and submit that here. You can just click right there and then submit it through the assignments. So please make sure you do that. If you, like I said, if you haven't done it, you can go ahead and still submit it without penalty because I just feel like it's a really, really great video. And then obviously by the end of the week, you'll take a quiz on the integumentary system by September 23rd. And you can link to the quiz there. So that kind of takes you through everything for the next week for lecture. Now, just as a heads up, if some of you really liked the review sheets, so if you want to go ahead and print that entire review sheet for yourself beforehand, you're welcome to do that. So you can go ahead and download. If you want to download it onto your computer, you can do that here. So you can make notes or whatever is easiest for you. So that's an option. And just because I kind of I forgot to tell you that ahead of time before the last exam. So I want you to know that that's there and you can use that as you're going along. So hopefully that seemed to help some of you. I know it's not for everybody, but it is helpful for some. So I think that's it for the lecture. We got through the biology of skin color assignment. Oh, some of the supplemental videos too. There's some really interesting supplemental videos that I posted for the integumentary system. And if you have a chance, just take a quick look at them. If you go down, if you scroll down here, this is just a site on talking about skin cancer and skin cancer prevention. And then there's some interesting videos on tattooing. I don't know if any of you have watched the YouTuber Smarter Every Day, but they have one on tattooing, and they use some special cameras to get in up close so that you can see that tattooing. So it's really interesting. And then the laser tattoo removal, which is kind of interesting. And then if you like the whole Body World exhibit, you can watch, this is just a short 10-minute video on the process by which the skin is dissected and removed. So it's really interesting. But I do put this kind of warning here that it's not really appropriate for young children. So if you're like me and you have young kids and you maybe are not quite ready to show them the cadavers and kind of pulling the skin off, which it might freak some kids out. I like to let you know there's also some nudity too. So I like to give you that heads up. Okay, so that's lecture for the week. And then let's get on to lab. And the main reason I wanted to get this video out before you start the week is that I want to go ahead and get you started on the lab. This lab practical is going to be set up, the lab page for this is going to be set up a little bit different, and that everything that you need is all on this page for lab practical 2. So it's all in one spot. And the reason is just skeletal system just kind of lended itself to that. So because that's it. Your next practical is the skeletal system. That's it. It's all on that topic. I shouldn't say that's it because, again, it's not just the bones you have to know, but there are going to be different features in the bones that you have to know so that you know attachment points and origin points for muscles when we get to that in the next section. So this again is where it's really handy for you to have that lab schedule. I love that it just like disappears on me. I have to have the right point. So make sure that you check that lab schedule you're going to see for this week. It's going to tell you that you're going to be doing, for the 2 lab days this week, you'll be doing just the skull. So skull both days. So what do you need to know? The very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to click on this document and either print it or save it to your computer. Okay. This is going to tell you exactly what you need to know. So here, we're starting on what's called the axial skeleton. And we'll go over this more in lecture, but so basically the appendicular, it's easier to tell you what the appendicular skeleton is and then go back to the axial skeleton. So the appendicular skeleton is going to be your limbs and then the pectoral girdle that attaches your upper limbs to the body, and then the pelvic girdle, which attaches your lower limbs to the body. Okay, that's all appendicular skeleton. So everything else is going to be the axial skeleton, meaning that's going to include your skull. And you can see there's a lot to the skull, which is why we spent a whole week on the skull. And then we're going to talk about the vertebral column. We will talk about the ribs and the sternum. So all of that is going to be the axial skeleton. Okay. So that's where we're going to be starting with first. Again, this week is just going to be the skull. So you can see you're going to be learning all about the different features of the skull, and there are quite a few. So we're going to be going over things like sutures, frontal bone, the different bones of the skull. So we're going to have the frontal bone, the parietal bones. And so you'll be going through all of these features with me. I have videos and I will show those to you in just a minute. And then you are also going to go through things that are called foramens. So this is where, unfortunately, because you're not going to get this lecture until next week, some of these terms are going to be a little bit goofy, but sutures, just to kind of give you an idea, sutures for the skull are going to be areas where 2 bones are kind of coming together and meeting at that suture. So you'll see this when I go through the skull. You'll see all of these sutures across the skull. And then you'll see that there's also some terms like fossa. Fossa is going to be kind of like a deep depression, okay? And you'll notice that. Then you'll also see the term foramen, like right here, you'll see foramen. A foramen is going to be a hole or an opening in the skull where either blood vessels, so like here you can see the carotid artery passes, or nerves pass through. So those are going to be important, and I'm going to show you, I have a whole video that's just on the foramina of the skull. And the reason I do that is that I think it's sometimes easier to split them out and kind of learn them in relation to each other. So I do have a whole separate video on that. And then I go through the foramens in the actual entire axial skeleton video, which I'm going to show you. Okay, so there's going to be I have a lot of resources for you here, but that's going to be your first thing that you're going to do is take this document and print it out, okay, or download it onto your computer so that you have it. Then you're going to see I also have this document as well. And this is another one that I would say load onto your computer, okay? And it's going to walk you through, this is basically like your lab book information for these set of labs. So here you can see the axial skeleton. It's going to start with the skull, and it's going to start with these sutures again. These lines here where these bones are going to be coming together, okay, and showing those sutures. And I talk a little bit more about that in lecture and why that is in terms of, again, as you probably know, the bones are not fused when you're an infant, especially in the fetus, because otherwise your brain, your head wouldn't fit through the birth canal. So again, those bones are not fused until after birth. So that's why we have these sutures. And so you're going to go through and learn all of these sutures. And then you'll go through and you'll learn the different bones that come together to make up the skull. So these I love the colored images of this, but all of these different colored images are going to show the bones in different colors that have come together and fused together to make up the skull. So like, for example, this green bone here is going to be called the sphenoid bone, okay? And this little bone up here that's kind of in orange is the ethmoid bone. So these are all going to be, again, important bones for you to be able to identify within the skull. So I know I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you because the whole lab with you because I have videos for you. So let me just kind of show you where. So you're going to go through and again, download that axial skeleton lab guide. And the nice part is it has pictures with it. So it's not just telling you the terms that you need to know for the skull, but it also has a picture and image of it. And then I have some videos, okay? So I have a video introduction on the axial skeleton. I suggest you watch this one first, okay? And then go back to this video on the foramina of the skull, okay? So sorry that these are a little bit out of order, but I would do this axial skeleton one first. And I'm just gonna kind of show you, it will walk you through, again, it's just a YouTube video, and it will walk you through the terms and I'm going to walk you through that guide as well. And sorry, because it's a YouTube video, it does have, actually, I'm going to get out of this one because I think I actually saved, I pulled it up already for you so that you guys didn't have to, watch. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I got rid of it. But anyway, so you can click on this, watch the video. It's a YouTube video where, I just go through this axial skeleton guide and I pronounce all the terms for you. So I tell you the story about how when I took anatomy the very first time, I had an instructor and he was kind of doing an experiment with our class, and he decided that we would teach each other anatomy, but none of us knew how to pronounce the terms, and it made it really, really difficult for me to learn. And so much so that even though I got a good grade in the course, I felt like I really didn't get it. So I actually took anatomy again. I paid to take it again on my own. And I was really frustrated with that. And I decided that I would never do that to you guys as students. So again, watch those videos and I pronounce all of the terms for you. So that way then you can make that association. And then I have a video on the foramina of the skull. And so and for those of you that have skulls, that's kind of nice because you can go through these foramina in your skull with me in this video. Also, you can go to the library. The Red Mountain Library has a bone box that you can check out in the library, and it has all of the bones for a skeleton. So call the library and just I would just call them and make sure that it isn't like reserved by any other groups, but you can do that at the Red Mountain Library if you'd like to like get your hands on a skull. And then also I have students sometimes that just find them online. You know, there's nursing students that have had these and then they sell them for fairly cheap online. And then you can just kind of keep passing it along and then you can, you know, buy it and then sell it. So that's another option as well. But I would buy it used. They're kind of expensive to buy, you know, new. I would just buy a used one. And so you can see, oops, I'm just going to go through the foramina of the skull. And sorry, so you can see as I go through the different foramina of the skull, I actually have the term up there for you. So that way then hopefully it will make it a little bit easier for you to kind of make that association by seeing the term as well. Okay. So that is a really useful video. So make sure that you use those videos. And then once you get to the appendicular skeleton, then I have the whole setup for the appendicular skeleton. Okay, so let's get down to study resources. Okay, so I have study resources here. This is just the web album for the skull and axial skeleton. So again, the more you can get practice, the better. So this is great. A student created these years ago. There are a few terms in here that are spelled incorrectly, only a couple, because it was made by a student, but it's still very useful. So if a term is spelled incorrectly on these, go by my original sheet, okay? But the nice part is the reason I like this is it gives you this ability to test yourself. So you can go through and here have the leader lines and then it goes through the answers, okay? So I think that's a great resource for going through and testing yourself on those web albums. There are actual tutorial videos by another instructor, Pam Harrison, and these are actually really good videos as well. So I went ahead and posted them just because it's nice to have these extra resources. So you're welcome to watch these videos as well. And then one of my favorite kind of useful learning activities that we've created have been these 3D labeled models that were created by Dr. Churosky in Sketchfab. So check these out. So what you can do is you can open these up in what's called Sketchfab, and it'll take a minute to load the 3D model. But when it does, you'll actually be able to manipulate virtually the skull, which I find super helpful. So what you'll do is once you load it, you can click and then rotate from side to side. So it's pretty amazing. And then we have different features linked on here. So like here, it's going to go through the bones. So you'd like, oh, I think this is the frontal bone. You're like, oh, yep, that's the frontal bone. Or I think this is the vomer. Oh, yep, that's the vomer. So you can go through and look at these different bones. You can kind of zoom in on them. And I love it because you can really manipulate the skull almost as if you had that skull in your hands. So that is one of the really neat features that we have now. So go through, check out, don't ignore those 3D labeled models because they are amazing. And so make sure that you check those out. Also, I have soft chalk labeling exercises, the one where you click and drag the answers. So those are really helpful. And then of course we have we have these StudyMate flashcards for each of the sections. So make sure that you use those tools. They're really helpful. I think the most challenging part of not having you in lab in person for this is that repetition is key. So in lab, we have you kind of going over and over with each other, these bones and the parts of the bones. And so at home, it's easy for you to just kind of quick look through them and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I looked through the bones. That was my lab for the week. But no, you need to really spend time going over those bones and those features on the bone, because repetition is how you're going to get through this practical. Okay. So make sure that you spend some time doing that. Some people like to have like an actual, like a diagram to label. So we do have these labeling exercises that you can do. You can print these out and label these. Oops, sorry, I'll try to scroll up here so you can see. There you go. These labeling exercises. So if you want to print that out and label those, sometimes that's just another way to do some active learning. And then we do have the answer key for this. So if you go back here, you've got not only that activity, but you also have the answer key for that. So that's another helpful tool that a lot of our students like. We used to hand it out in lab. So here's the answers for the skull and then the answers for the rest of the axial skeleton that we'll get to next week. Here is, it's called the Bone Box. It's a link of like different bones that were put together by another university. So it'll allow you to kind of test yourself on the different bones and the bone markings. Just again, another study tool if you want that extra study tool. And then there's some helpful resources from the Wiley Student Companion site. And then I did do a review session here. So you can do a review session at the very end, just like I did with the tissues, to help kind of review everything. So again, that's at the end. And I'll remind you of that later on. For the practice quiz, again, you can do the Skull Lab practice quiz at the end of this week. See how you do. Test yourself. Again, remember that I'm not grading the practice quizzes. That's kind of why we have them set up as practice quizzes. But if you think you got an answer right, but you're not sure and you want to know how that would be on the practical, just email me and I can let you know whether or not that would have been, an acceptable answer for the practical. Because again, you might have capitalized something or might have, tweaked something slightly and I would accept it, but Canvas wasn't smart enough to accept it. Okay. And then again, try to save this. I don't have it open yet anyway, but save that practice practical for the very end when you've studied all of the bones and you're really feeling like you want to see how you're going to do. Okay. Again, spelling does count just like the last lab practical. So you want to make sure that, you are looking at spelling. Keep in mind too that if you mix up one letter, I don't take off any points for that. If you mix up 2 to 3, like you missed 2 to 3 letters in there, but I can still obviously tell that you have the correct answer, then I usually give you half credit. And then beyond that, then it gets kind of too jumbled. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. Sorry, I know that was a little bit of a long introduction because I was kind of introducing you to all of the tools that you're going to use for the skeletal system. So future announcements will be shorter, I promise. But as always, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I am happy to set up some meetings with you all if you are struggling. All right. But many of you did very well on the practical. So give yourself a good pat on the back. Hang in there with me and you're doing great. All right. Have a good week, guys.